Hi everyone, welcome to another video from the Parrot Bros. Now today we are going to be doing a smoke test on this because it has a weird hesitation randomly, not particularly on boost, not off boost, just randomly. It might just be the characteristics of the 150 because it's original unmapped, but I thought, well, it's a 19-year-old car and it's probably definitely worth doing a smoke test because there could be broken pipes, split pipes, the hose could be come off, the plastic could be brittle. It's 19 years old after all. Plus, I thought it'd be great to show you what it looks like under the engine bay of a 150. And also, I don't know if you've already seen it or not, but I have a video on how to make your own DIY smoke tester, which I'll show you how it works. And you don't really need anything special. Soldering iron, which is about 10 or 12 quid, and then a pickle jar and a few other bits. But before we get stuck into that, let's jump to that intro. The 150 differs slightly from the 180 and the 225, and also depending on whether it's a BAM or an APX. There's all various different options. Now, some of these cars may have some of these corrugated plastic pipes you see here, and that is because that is the secondary air pump, which is based somewhere down in the hole. So they go onto the air box. Let me just show you quickly. So if your air box has two spouts, one for the secondary air and one for the MAF, then you've got one. If you don't worry. Not every car has one, it doesn't matter. So there is some extra added pipes that could be leaking. Now, of course, you've got all your normal stuff. You've got your N249, you've got your three-way breather hose, you've got your boost stuff up top, and then underneath you've got all your PCV stuff, which is similar. It's slightly different, but it's similar in the way it's mounted and stuff. Let me put some gloves on before I get absolutely filthy, because this is really dirty. Now, what I would recommend doing before you do anything, no matter what car you've got, if you're going to do a smoke test, this works on any car. Obviously better on turbo cars, because if you have a boost leak, you will lose performance, and we don't want lost performance, do we? So start with a visual inspection. Just make sure everything looks like it's clipped on. It's not the easiest thing to do, but remove all of your engine plastics so you can see what you need to look at. Once you've done that, get yourself a torch, and just have a good look around. Look for obvious stuff first, because at the end of the day, you'd be surprised what you might find. And if people have been working on it before, like this one's got blue Jubilee clips, so they've obviously been replaced, which means someone's been there in the past. Not always a bad thing, but also give your pipes a squeeze. Now, you want them to be relatively firm because they're sort of rubberized plastic, and you shouldn't be able to squeeze them in and then them stay there. Often, they can be, and they might break, and they might get perish. So when you squeeze them, you might see sort of tears in them. That means they're sort of getting towards the end of their life, and the last thing you want to do is it to fail on you. And then look around. The other one is this hard plastic pipe. I'll stick a picture up now and draw an arrow to it. But this hard plastic pipe usually goes towards your brake booster reservoir. So if you lose that, you may lose brakes, and it is very scary. I've had it done to myself before. I don't think the 150s suffer as bad because they go right round the back and behind the heat shield, whereas on a 225 they go that way, and then they have this weird loop, and for some reason they always seem to go. But it is good. Have a good look down here, see if you can see anything. There's a broken bit of dipstick tube in there, which is helpful. But the PCV system is all the same. It looks a bit sweaty, which is kind of normal. But I can't see anything obvious. I did have a quick look earlier. So we've ruled out the obvious issues, apart from the fact that it's filthy and it needs a clean, which is common, but it's not dripping anything on the floor, which is definitely a thumbs up for my not getting shouted at by my missus. Right, so let me talk you through the smoke tester. You don't need a compressor, and it is solely made up of a pickle jar, drilled through the lid, put a soldering iron through it, bit of epoxy bond, like a araldite, and then two metal valves which you can get from anywhere, Amazon, eBay, whatever. So you're basically putting your soldering iron in. Inside is a old sock which lost its elasticity, and a load of baby oil, because baby oil is what creates the smoke. Now, that is pretty much it, and I've got a video on how to do that, all that kind of stuff. You can buy 3D printed sort of mounts, proper mounts to go in there, probably only a couple of quid. And then put a valve in and you can put it onto the valve. Great, if you have an 80mm one. They do a 70mm one. I just don't have one because I've never owned one before. And then what you want to do with this is going to go into your turbo intake pipe here where your air box usually goes, or your air filter. Take your MAF out and everything, and then you just plumb that in there, and all I've used is the lid of a paint can and put tape around it just so it gets a nice seal. It might weep a tiny bit, but it doesn't matter. And then what I'll do is turn it on, leave it so that the jar fills up with smoke, and then hopefully you should see, there you go, we've got a nice flow of smoke. So we'll allow that to build up, a bit more smoke, and then we'll stick it on and see what we can find. Now, there may not be nothing, it may just be that the math is a little bit tired and a little bit slow. It could be the N75 valves a little bit funny, or it could just need a map, and I'm just not used to 150s being a bit, you know. It's like whenever you buy a car, you sort of need to get to know it to then sort of know whether there's a problem with it. I've never really driven a 150, 180 much, so it may just be that. Everything looks pretty good, but it doesn't mean there is certain things obviously underneath the inlet manifold pipes you can't see. You can use a foot pump. Like I said, you don't need a compressor because you are just gently allowing the smoke in. You don't want to build up the pressure. Make sure you've got a good torch ready to have a good look, because sometimes it's not the easiest thing to do. You probably can use a vape, I guess, if you want to just, and then blow into the tube. Similar principle, but you might get all puffed out if you've got quite a lot of leaks. And then just what I normally do is just blow it gently until all the smoke's gone out of the chamber here. And then what we'll do, like I said, not a lot of pressure. There'll be a little bit of weeping out here, which is just round the actual joint where I put it in. But the smoke sort of lingers and it sort of sits on its own. I'll try and get a close-up in a minute. But you just want to have a good look and see if you can see it just resonating out of anywhere. So far, it's looking quite good. So far, so good. Put a bit more in. This is all looking very promising. I'm actually pretty surprised. I must admit, I was expecting quite a monumental boost leak for some reason. I don't know why. Don't forget to have a look down where the turbo is, just in case. All right, well, there doesn't appear to be any. So what we'll do is, just to prove that it is working, we'll take this oil cap off, and then we'll blow a bit more through. And then you can see there, look, see it just lingering out of the oil cap. But there's definitely no other. Let me give you a closer look. So you see there, you can just about see the smoke coming out. Let me put my light there and see if you can see it. So that's what you're looking for. But that should be plenty visible anywhere else. Now, I'm not actually seeing any, which I'm very surprised about, because on a 19-year-old car that's done 100,000 miles, you would expect at least one or two cracked pipes or broken pipes, or just ones with a little split in. Put a bit more smoke in. Apart from what's leaking out of the dodgy pipe where I put it in, is not. Oh, is that? Right, we might have found something. Let's have a look. Just wedge this in a bit better. Let's see if... Can't work out whether there's a bit coming out the bottom or it's... No, it is just where it's coming out of where I've put it in. Oh, I was getting excited then. I thought we was going to find some smoke. But right, let's unmount you and I'll show you a bit more of this engine bay. Yeah, I must admit, I thought there was going to be at least one split pipe, but apparently there's not. So on the 150s and 180 models, the inlet goes this way because you only have a single intercooler on this side. So it goes in through the intercooler and then it comes out through a sort of pancake-shaped pipe in the wheel well and then goes up into this pipe here, which goes to your turbo. On a 225, this is on this side, and what it does is the charge pipe comes across, down into an intercooler, across to the other intercooler, and then it comes up and into the inlet manifold. Let me just turn my smoke machine off because it's gassing me out. What other differences have we got? This is slightly different. The injectors are mounted slightly different. They've got a weird clip which is slightly different to the 225s. The engine cover is completely different because the inlet manifold is slightly smaller and it has one that goes round to here, so it's got 3 clips, and then this one has a bit that mounts onto this lower section here. Characteristics which are similar on all of the models are things like the coil packs are all the same. The N249 looks very similar. I'm not 100% sure if it's exactly the same because I can't see any... Oh, maybe it doesn't have an N249 actually. That may just be... That's just a vacuum reservoir. So it may not actually have an N249 because usually it's mounted there. Rocker covers are very similar, if not the same. You've got a smaller turbo intake pipe. So here, this turbo intake pipe goes down into, you probably can't see it because it's terrible, but see, oh you can there. See this bit here, that's the actual turbo itself, and it has like a clip that goes into there. And it's a completely different mounting. So turbo intake pipes, if you wanted to sort of do some boost work to a 180 with a KO3, if it's KO3S, I'm not sure on this, you may struggle a little bit getting a nice turbo intake pipe. So you may have to look at doing like a KO4 conversion, because I don't know a great deal about the modified route for this, because I'm not really planning on doing loads in the way of sort of big power stuff, because it's a 150. I don't want to spend thousands on it, but it's just nice to have it and enjoy it and sort of get everything sort of working and right. And on a single map, I think you can go from 150 like towards 200, 210 without a great deal of having to do anything. Of course, if you want to, you can do downpipe, intercooler, and if you can get a bigger turbo intake pipe, ideal, because it's all about flow. These 1.8 turbos are all about restriction. So if you can reduce the restriction, so a better flowing exhaust downpipe, because at the moment this is only a single little single one, but on the I think the 180s and the 225s are a twin, quite sort of narrow pipe one, and the 180 is a single pipe one similar to this. You get a bigger one, you'll get better flow out, so there'll be less restriction on the way out. On the way in, if you're getting, there's more capacity for air, so a bigger intercooler means you can have more cooler air capacity. Air filter and a bigger turbo intake pipe allows you to get more air in. The MAF will automatically know how much air is coming in and then adjust your fuel accordingly. So those are your sort of your go-to mods on any 1.8 turbo based car. That will give you quite a nice little power increase for not mad money. These are relatively easy to fit an intercooler on. I have a video for that. I'll put that down in the description, or if you check my channel, search for frontman intercooler. Turbo intake pipe and the downpipe. These are a little bit easier to work on the downpipe, I believe, because they come, if you look up at it, it comes straight down, whereas on the 225, they're mounted on the side and you have to take the wheel off and try and go through the wheel arch is an absolute nightmare. So modifications wise, the 150s, I think maybe you might need to look at Golf stuff, because it may be similar, because obviously this is like a 150 engine similar to what's in a Mark IV Golf. So it gives you that kind of comparison of modifications. Now, I'm actually very, very pleased, and I don't really want to touch this because this car is completely factory standard, which I absolutely love. So if I can keep it that way, apart from a little cheeky map just to make it a bit more lively, then that would be absolutely epic, because this probably will be for sale next summer. We'll move on to another project car, but I thought it'd be nice to get a bit of 150 content and show you a little bit about them. All the differences and all that kind of stuff, and to enjoy it, because these are such an underrated car, such an underrated car. I mean, you can pick these up for sort of £1,200 to £1,500. They haven't been ragged and rallied as much. Generally, they've got less mileage, convertible, which means they've probably only been used in the summer. And you'll get a fantastic car. It's still a TT, it still has all the stylings and all the characteristics of a TT, but for a lesser budget. But yeah, for value for money, I think this has definitely got to be your best option. £1,000 to £1,500, 150, normally on a roadster. But if you snap them up in the winter, you may even get a better bargain. Just make sure you seal that roof. That's on the list of things to do. The next thing to do is get this an MOT, because in our last video, I don't know if you said I'm getting it ready for an MOT. I checked and it's overdue. So I can't actually drive it. I've finished polishing the headlights, so now it's done. We'll get it for an MOT. Fingers crossed it goes through okay. If not, more videos. And then we'll get some nice winter content. Roof down, heated seats on, blowers on hot, and enjoying the roadster, and people looking and thinking, what is he playing at? But I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you found it useful and interesting, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye for now.